Today we're sure going to talk about a lot of different microphones from Shure. I have the Shure Nexadyne, which is the next microphone in their line of handheld dynamic microphones. This is the Nexadyne 8C, and I can't wait to see what is happening today with words. I cannot wait to see how the 8C compares to a few other Shure microphones. I'm so sorry about how this started off. If you're unfamiliar with the Nexadyne, it's basically the evolution of the SM58, and it's Shure's new, handheld dynamic microphone came out sometime within the last year. This one was actually loaned to me by my friend Matt, who has a YouTube channel and also a many years long background as a live sound engineer. So I kind of trusted what he said when he was like, this microphone's amazing and you should definitely check it out. So I took him up on that offer and am checking it out right here. And I've been using it a lot over the past couple weeks, and I really, really do like it. But that doesn't mean that I think it's just the default choice to go to if you're trying to choose between something like the SM58 and the Nexadyne, or even other Shure microphones like the Mv7, or of course the SM7B. So we're going to talk about all of those. We will be talking about all of those. And what I really want to do is compare this microphone to those specifically so we can see each microphone's strengths and weaknesses in a direct comparison. But before we do that, a few things that I think are really important to know about the Nexadyne are that it really is designed for that live sound environment. And so that is very different than the situation I'm in right now, where I'm in a controlled environment, a home office, home studio type situation, and lots of different microphones would sound great in this situation. This microphone also sounds great in that situation, but it really is designed for kind of the insane circumstances you encounter when dealing with live audio. And that doesn't just mean spoken word, but also singing and instruments and miking up cabinets and all these situations in a live sound environment where you just have crazy dynamic range. Some sounds are very quiet, like a person speaking in almost a whispered tone, and others are super loud, like an electric guitar cabinet or something like that. And this microphone is really geared at making all of those situations sound great while also continuing on that Shure legacy of durability and reliability. It does have an MSRP of $299, which is going to make it a very interesting mic to compare to a few others. And since it is a handheld mic, I really do want to compare it with the other handheld mic, the SM58. So this is the Nexadyne 8C, and this is the classic SM58. Neither of them have any effects or any processing. I don't ever do effects or processing in any of my mic reviews because I want to make sure you hear them as accurately as they sound. They both have 54 decibels of gain going into the Rodecaster Pro 2 here. So this is the SM58, and this is the Nexadyne 8C. So the reason I'm doing this right now is because you can kind of hear the handling noise, and there's sort of two parts of that. There's the cable itself and then actually my hand on the microphone. So as I'm just sort of, moving around the microphone, you sort of hear what kind of handling noise it has. And over here on the 58, I do feel like I hear a little bit more from the cable. And if I just sort of like move and change my grip on the microphone, I don't know if it's super different. Shure did say that there's much better handling noise resistance in the Nexadyne. I don't know that I'm really noticing that. I mean, this is the 58 and this is the 8C. I guess it is a little bit better, but it's probably best whenever you hand either of these microphones to someone to try and reduce handling noise as much as possible. And the thing that's really interesting to me here is the difference in sound. So again, the 8C and the SM58 with no effects and no processing. So I'm going to put the Nexadyne back in the mic stand just so it's a little bit easier here. But the 58, it has quite a different sound. And so you can sort of imagine if you're putting this on all those different things, vocals and instruments and spoken word and all that kind of stuff, how this might sound, not just straight out of the box, because I don't think anyone, especially in a professional live sound environment, is not going to add any kind of EQ or processing. You ever been to a concert and seen, they don't just have a Rodecaster, they have a mixer the size of this table that has, like an infinite number of channels on it and all kinds of ways to tweak and dial in the sound. You want a microphone that's going to let you do that really well. And the SM58, this has been around for decades. There's nothing I'm going to say that's going to be like, oh, the 58 shouldn't be used anymore. It's not a professional level microphone. It 100% is. I think what happened over here with the 8C is that as times have changed and things have evolved, Shure wanted to kind of create something that was just maybe a little bit more versatile and a little more adaptable to those situations. And personally, I do prefer the sound of the Nexadyne with no effects and no processing, but if I do add a preset in the Rodecaster, I can dial in the sound and really kind of make it the way that I want it, the way that I like it to sound, and there's a lot of versatility there. Same goes with the SM58, of course. Now I can turn on effects and processing, kind of dial in that sound a little bit more. And as far as plosives go, Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. I'm trying really hard to hit those plosives on the 58. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. Peter Piper pitched a podcast. They seem pretty similar. Obviously, you can put windscreens and stuff on them pretty easily. Maybe Peter Piper, they're pretty similar. If anything, I would honestly say the Nexadyne is maybe a little more prone to plosives than the 58 is. So this is the comparison I was most interested in when I heard about the Nexadyne, because the 58 is so legendary. The idea that they would try to make like a new version of it or something to evolve or potentially replace it was really interesting to me. And so on paper, the Nexadyne is a better microphone. Its tech specs are better, its sound quality is better, its handling noise is better. It is a better microphone, but it has an MSRP of $299 versus $99. And so the question of whether those improvements are $200 better, you can get 3 of these for the price of 1 of these. That is where I think we kind of get a little bit into the weeds and things get a little bit less clear. Oh, and that proximity effect as well. Let's see. If I go here really close to the microphone, this is what I sound like. If I get further away, and the Nexadyne, if I get really close to it, it sounds like this. And if I go away, it sounds like that. Keeping in mind when I'm back here, you're hearing reflections. You're hearing more of the room. You're hearing less of that here, but it's not really changing the actual tone of my voice that much when I'm closer or further away. Same thing here. If we listen to the tone of my voice as I'm close to the microphone or further away, I'm changing the level and how much of the room you're hearing, but not necessarily the actual tone of my voice, which will be the case in some of the other microphones we're going to look at in a little bit. But the thing with this comparison, the SM58 versus the 8C, is who I think the microphone is designed for and what it's intended for. So the 58 is great and is probably more than enough for most of us, and probably more than most of us actually even needs in a microphone, to be honest with you. Like, it's proven itself over many, many years. And in a way, it kind of reminds me about 10 years ago, I got really into cycling and like riding bikes and stuff. And when I got really into it, there were people who kept telling me like, you need to shave your legs to cut down on wind resistance and improve your time and your speed and all that. At my level, even to this day, the leg hair is not the reason that I'm slow or underperforming. Like, there are so many other things that would make a way bigger difference than something like leg hair or the weight of my little cycling computer that tracks my distance and stuff. But for anyone who's at like a professional competitive level of cycling where races can be decided by fractions of a second, then every little advantage becomes a huge advantage. And I think it's sort of the same thing here. The 58, for most of us, if we grab this microphone and we just learn how to position it and add a little bit of EQ, it's going to give us better sound quality than we ever probably possibly need, especially if we are in an office or a home studio type environment, whereas the Nexadyne will still obviously sound great in those environments. But if you're in that professional setting where things need to be as good as possible, as reliable as possible, delivering as much capability as possible at all times with zero room for error, then that extra price point, those little edges in performance could end up making a big difference. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you have to be a professional to use this microphone. If you want it and you got the budget for it, go for it. It's an awesome microphone, but I just don't want you to feel like you absolutely have to have it, or especially if you already have something like this, that now this is no good and you need to throw it away and spend more money on something like the Nexadyne. But what's next in line for the Nexadyne is a different microphone to compare it to. So as a handheld dynamic microphone, the SM58 was very interesting to me to compare because I feel like the Nexadyne is the next evolution of this line. But this is the Mv7 Plus, which I think is also interesting because it's very similar in price point. The Nexadyne has a $299 MSRP, and this has a $279 MSRP. So there's a $20 difference between them. If you're already spending upwards of $300 on a microphone, I don't know if that $20 is going to sway you one way or another. So it really comes down to which one of these microphones you prefer and which one better suits your needs. So this is the Mv7, again, with no effects and no processing, and this is the Nexadyne with no effects and no processing. They are very different microphones. This is not intended, the Mv7 Plus is not intended for live performances, live sound. You're not going to go to a band concert and see this on stage. Probably. That's not at all what it's intended for. This is designed for podcasting and streaming and those types of situations, which you can tell because it's also a USB microphone. So that's probably, in addition to the design and the sound quality, the biggest feature difference is you have XLR and USB functionality. I have a whole separate review on this microphone. It's great. And then of course, if you add effects and processing, so here is the Mv7 Plus, now with an SM7B preset. And this is how I typically use the microphone. And I think that it sounds really great like this, but I'm gonna take off that effect, take off that processing so you can hear what the mic sounds like on its own. Design-wise, some pretty big differences here, but if I take off the pop filter, capsule design-wise, they don't actually look all that different. This has always kind of looked like, you know, an SM58 or now a Nexadyne if you just take the pop filter off, but it is very prone to plosives. Sorry about that. So I'm gonna put my dock pop back on here. So if you were to decide between these two microphones, I think there are a few key things. One is USB-C. So if you plan to use it at all through USB, if you don't have any kind of XLR interface, because this is XLR only, if you have no XLR interface and you just want to start with a microphone, well, USB is the way to go. And having a combo mic like this is awesome because not only does it give you more versatility, but it also then lets you grow and evolve over time. So you can start using it as a USB only mic. And then if you get something like a Rodecaster or whatever down the line, then you can use it as an XLR microphone, or you can use it as both simultaneously. Tons of flexibility built in here. Also flexibility, the nice built-in yoke obviously shows you that this is designed to be a studio microphone. So it just out of the box has the yoke attached to it that mounts to a mic stand or tabletop stand or boom arm or whatever you need. And it's also then lockable and adjustable. The Nexadyne, just like the SM58 and other handheld Shure microphones, comes with this little clip right here, which also gets the job done, but it's not nearly as solid or as versatile as this is. Again, that kind of shows you the intention. This is meant to be not only clipped in on a mic stand, but also taken out and handheld. This, despite the fact that I'm hand holding it right now, is really not intended to be a handheld microphone. But anyway, this is the sound of the Mv7 Plus, and this is the sound of the Nexadyne 8C. Very similar microphones in price, but with very different feature sets. And if we want to talk about legendary Shure microphones, the SM7B cannot be left out of that conversation because this is it. This is the Shure microphone for a lot of people in a lot of ways. Probably crazy to compare these two, but again, it's hard to do any video like this without talking about the SM7B. And I think there's some similarities that more than you might expect, I guess I should say. This does have a higher MSRP. So now we've surpassed the Nexadyne. This is an MSRP of $399, $299. So this is $100 more. And you can hear right out of the box, the SM7B sounds a lot muddier than the Nexadyne. This sounds crisp and clean and bright. This only has 54 decibels a gain. I actually had to bump the SM7B up to 56 just to get this level. And it's still quieter than the Nexadyne is at a lower gain level. But that kind of proves the point that I was talking about earlier. The SM7B is such an incredibly flat and neutral microphone that it is designed to be EQ'd. So if you've heard people talking on these and they sound amazing, and you get one, you just plug it in, you're like, why does it sound kind of muddy and weird? You really need to add some processing to it before the SM7B comes alive and then suits your specific voice. But that is one of the strengths of it, is the versatility of it to sound awesome on lots of different voices. It requires a lot of gain, it requires a lot of EQ, it requires finesse. But then you can really finesse a great sound out of it. I'm going to turn off the processing though, go back to the default sound, back over here on the Nexadyne. Something though that is very interesting about the SM7B. So if you wonder, like, I know it'd be weird to compare these two because this is really not designed to do the same things that this does. But one of the most underrated features, which is why I did an entire video about this goofy project to turn this into a handheld wireless microphone. If you notice, the SM7B has virtually no handling noise. It has this little spinny part here to mount it to a stand that's kind of clacky. But if I hold that and I move the mic around, there's no, this is the microphone that has the least handling noise that I think of any of my microphones, and it is not designed to be a handheld microphone. It's designed to be on a boom arm or a mic stand, and if you need to move it and reposition it, you can literally grab the microphone and move it during a broadcast, during a recording, and it's not going to make any sound. It is so cool. I know there are a lot of people that really dislike when I handhold a microphone like this, but there is a very practical side to it. It sounds great, and it works incredibly well as a handheld microphone. The downside being it's very big, it's very bulky, it's very heavy, and it has this extra cable that goes here in addition to your XLR cable. So it's not at all a practical handheld microphone. If it's your microphone and you want to create something to handhold it like I did, it makes a lot of sense. But if you're somebody who needs to be able to just hand someone a microphone who maybe is like never even really used a microphone before and they just need to be able to use it, this is definitely not the way to go. But if we're talking again about sound quality, sound capability, sound performance, gosh, this is sounding so good to me right now. If I go here, you can hear the proximity effect of the SM7B. If I get close to it, my voice is very rich, very full. And if I go away, things really thin out. If I go here, this kind of sounds neutral, and then I can really boost up that sound of my voice, that tone of my voice, by getting closer to the microphone. That's something that this microphone is known for, is that proximity effect. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, it's just a quality of the microphone, and it's something that some people like to use, some people don't like to use. But again, especially if you're using a microphone or using a microphone in a situation with people that aren't super familiar with microphones, and they're going to be moving close to the microphone, far away from the microphone, and you probably don't want the tone of their voice to change very much, that's where something like the Nexadyne or the SM58 really, really do come in handy. So all that taken into account, I really do think that the Nexadyne 8C is an awesome microphone, definitely geared towards those professional live sound settings, but it's really cool to see sort of that niche of microphone that has been so consistent for so long get a change like this. I think that's pretty awesome and pretty fun, but that doesn't mean that the SM58 is out of date by any means. Still a super capable, super quality microphone, probably for most of us. But just like a professional cyclist might need to shave their legs for that competitive edge, a professional audio engineer might need to shave their bank account for a professional edge with a microphone like this. And speaking of shaving bank accounts, that sounds negative, but thanks though to everyone who shaved their bank accounts to help support my channel. I really appreciate it. And if you want to check out a few other mic reviews and comparisons, oh boy, do I have a lot of them. Here are two of them right here.